Hello everybody, welcome to the channel. It's your boy Uwe Mark. If you're new to the channel, please click the bell notification icon just below the video. Also, subscribe to the channel and drop a comment and like the video and do share it. So today we'll be looking at the repatriated Abacha loot. Now, Abacha is, or was, because he's dead now, he was a very popular Nigerian ruler. He was a dictator, a military governor, a military president. For those who didn't grow up to know Abacha. So during the reign of Abacha, spanning the period of 1993 to about 1998, Abacha stole a lot of money from the country, and he used both in-house and out-house machinery to loot money from the government treasury, and he domiciled them in foreign countries like in the US, the UK, France, Switzerland, so many countries all over the world. Now, Nigeria being a part or a member of humanitarian organizations all over the world that work together to make sure that stolen funds are repatriated in mutual agreement, has been over a period of years now, and recently, starting from February 2020, Nigeria was able to work out a deal with a tripartite deal with the United States of America and the island of Sydney, and they were able to come to an agreement for funds to be returned. Now, this actually generated a whole lot of controversy in the country, in the country and even outside the country. So while the United States is to some extent willing to refund money, a whole lot of people stood against the idea. Now, first reason for standing against the idea was that Nigerian governments are so corrupt that when the money is released to them, this money will find their way back into the coffers of corrupt leaders. So many American top guns were against it. Prominent amongst them were two members of the U.S. House of Representatives. Let me see if I can get their names for you. Yes, Chris Smith and Steve Chabot. Of course, these are members of the House of Reps in the United States of America, stood against the bids to refund or repatriate over 300 million US dollars that was stolen by Abacha and domiciled in the US, stood against such monies being repatriated back to Nigeria. Their reason being that they're having so much news of corruption in Nigeria and human rights violation in the country, and rights of people being violated as a result of the fact that they belong to a certain tribe or a certain religion and so on. So these two senators stood against the money being repatriated. Now, ever since February up to this time, the process had gone on and it had taken a whole lot of rigorous effort. Eventually, the monies have been repatriated to Nigeria. Now, once the money arrived here, a whole lot of controversy came up. Political parties are speaking up, the PDP is speaking up, APC is speaking up, individuals are speaking up, lawyers are speaking up. So the tripartite deal that led to the money being released to Nigeria clearly stated, and the US emphasized on this, clearly stated that for the money to be released, there has to be an agreement. There has to be an agreement on what the money will be used for. And the Nigerian government agreed to this. Nigerian government therefore agreed to spend the money on infrastructural development. Nigerian government agreed to spend the money on two key projects, if not three. One of which is the construction of the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, the completion of the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. The second one is the completion of the second Niger Bridge, and a third project the money will be used for is the Mambila electricity or the Mambila Power Project, which will supply electricity for about 3 million households and about 10 million Nigerian citizens. Now, here is the big controversy. San, senior advocate of Nigeria, Femi Falana, has come out to rebuff the Nigerian government. That why would they agree on a deal with the United States of America, a deal in which the United States of America is telling the federal government on how they should spend money that was stolen from this country into their country? Why should they tell us how to spend it? Falana's claim is that that money was stolen from the Central Bank of Nigeria, and that account it's not just a federal government account. It is an account that belongs to both the local government, the state government, and the federal government. So Falana is saying that the federal government alone had no right to decide on what to do with the money, not to talk of them being told how they would use the money by the government of a foreign country. Now that the money is here, Falana is saying that that money should be shared equally between the three tiers of government in Nigeria, between the federal government, the state government, and the local government. So Falana is saying that the repatriated money, that is the Abacha loot, cannot be used to execute federal government alone. Now, the three projects I listed earlier are all federal government projects. Falana is saying this money cannot be used for federal government projects alone. If that is the case, then it is a violation of the Constitution. According to Falana, for the federal government to be told how to use the money by another government, it's a violation or a contradiction of Section 12 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999. So, what do you think, people? Now, this was how I saw it. If actually Nigeria took our own money to another man's country and it was abandoned there, don't you think that money has automatically become that of another country? What do you think? Or does that money still belong to us since we've stolen it and given it to another country? Okay, now, based on best practices and humanitarianism, a lot of countries in the world where monies have been stolen into, they try to follow a laid-down protocol to refund such monies. Okay, so the governments of the United States of America and the UK have also contested the repatriation of the over 300 billion US dollars Abacha loot on the grounds that there is conspiracy on the ground that once the money is repatriated, about over 100 million US dollars of that money will be paid to Atiku Bagudu, the present governor of Kebbi State. Now, this has caused controversy on the grounds that the money recovered from the Abacha loot cannot be given to individuals, especially individuals who have some sort of corruption connection to the late military dictator of the country, Sani Abacha. Now, for those who don't know Atiku Bagudu, the present governor of Kebbi State, Bagudu, before he became president, I beg your pardon, before he became governor of Kebbi State, he was the financial officer for the Abacha family. So, and he has been discovered as one of the, should I say, a member of the cabal or a member of the organization or society, whichever way you want to call it, through which Abacha, which was headed actually by Abacha and controlled by Abacha, Abacha used this organization to push out money out of the country. And one of the persons who facilitated this movement of money was Atiku Bagudu. Now, there have been news and suspicions by the governments of the United States and of the UK that the Nigerian federal government plans on giving some amount worth hundreds of billions, hundreds of millions of that money to Governor Atiku Bagudu. Now, this the U.S. government has frowned at. I think the Bagudu family has some sort of history with the government of the United States of America. I think some of the assets that Bagudu family own outside Nigeria, probably in the United States of America, have been confiscated and seized. So I think the ploy is that maybe, according to the speculations and the rumors out there, that the federal government intends to compensate the family of Bagudu with some of the monies that would be repatriated, since some of their properties, that's the property of the Bagudu family, have been seized in some other countries. These are speculations and allegations, and suspicions. All right. So the United States government is standing on the ground that if this happens, if the repatriated money of the Abacha loot finds its way into pockets of private citizens, especially those that have criminal and corrupt records, then the Nigerian government will have to repatriate such money. Any part of the money that finds its way into private pockets or corruptly, used, would be refunded by the Nigerian government. Now, the special advisor to the president, to the presidency on media and publicity, he has come out to say that the federal government is well aware of the conditions that are tied to that money, and has stated that that money cannot be used otherwise. It cannot be used for any other purpose than for what it has been agreed to be used for, as stipulated by the contract which saw the money being released to Nigeria. So he debunked every claim that the money was going to be, a part of the money was going to be given to Governor Bagudu. Okay, so we're watching as we speak. Like I said earlier, the American government, the government of Bailiwick and that of Nigeria agreed on what the money should be used for, and committees have been inaugurated to investigate, monitor, just act as a watchdog on how the money will be spent. And if it is found out by any of these organizations and by the United States government that the money was misappropriated, such misappropriation will be refunded. Okay. And I'm wondering why the United States of America seem to be willing to help Nigeria. Should I say suddenly? Because I know the United States of America is kind of tough on Nigeria in some area, but recently, especially in this Buhari government, I see that the United States of America is willing to help Nigeria, especially in the area of repatriation of funds. So APC, the All Progressive Congress, has come out to say that for one of the very first time in Nigerian history Nigeria has been credited to be very, very transparent. This is one of the regimes in Nigeria that has been credited to be transparent and all out against corruption. That is the General Muhammadu Buhari regime. That is the reason why American governments seem to put trust on the government right now. That is why they're able to release funds to them, because they perceive that this government, that's the government of Buhari, is more transparent and more corruption free than any other government prior to this time. Now, we all know that the efforts by Nigerian government to make sure money is repatriated, stolen money is repatriated, takes place with every government, but other countries have been so tight and firm with us because they really don't want to release this money back to corrupt governments. But we saw that with the government of Buhari, monies have been released. So APC and some other individuals in the country believe that our transparency, our integrity in the eyes of foreign countries is improving. That's why there's so much trust in this government and monies are being released to us. Okay. We all know that it took a whole lot of years before some of these monies were returned. Now, bear in mind that sometime last year, Switzerland returned or repatriated about over 300 million US dollars to Nigeria, and that money partly was used for feeding a school feeding program for the hungry, the poor, the helpless, those who cannot afford square meals. That money was used for that purpose. And now another sum is being returned or repatriated by the US to us, over 300 million US dollars. And the US has also come out again to say that there is another over 300 million US dollars somewhere in the UK and in France. Some of these monies are under contention. Now, UK is unwilling to release these monies to us because they feel that corruption is still on the high in Nigeria, and if this money is released, it will find its way back into the hands of the same people who stole it. And one of such is the case of Bagudu that I earlier mentioned. Okay, so like I've been trying to say, that a lot of controversy have risen over the expenditure and the use of the Abacha loot from the United States of America. So the PDP, the People's Democratic Party, the opposition party in Nigeria, has raised alarm several times that the money, the Abacha loot that has been repatriated, intends or is being intended for individuals and to be used for purposes for which they are not meant for. Now, that was a claim by the PDP. The APC has filed a counterclaim to that assertion, saying that the PDP is so much like a toothless dog right now because they are regretting or crying over the fact that they no longer have access to some of these funds because the Buhari regime is so strict with these funds that it has cut off or blocked all leakages. Now the PDP cannot have access to such monies. That's a claim by APC anyway. So the Attorney General of the Federation has also come under intense criticism because on his Twitter page, he referred to the Abacha loot as Abacha assets. Users on Twitter have asserted that if he's using such terms as Abacha asset for the money, then it will seem like Abacha legally owned the money, and the money it was legal for him to take the money to other countries and just leave them there. So they are seen as asset and not as stolen funds. Now, the Attorney General of the Federation and the Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, has responded to this claim by saying that this claim is just language semantics, and we should keep our eyes on the focus. We should chase the substance and not the shadow. According to him, that language he used was a deliberate one by him, because once the money were taken out, they were stolen funds. But since the United States government has agreed and repatriated those money back, now they are legal and they are government assets. That's why he referred to the money as Abacha asset, and he encouraged Nigerians not to focus on language and unnecessary noise. All right, but instead they should focus on how the money will be used and for whom it will be used. Okay, so much controversy that has been raised by the Abacha loot, and the Abacha funds that have been repatriated to Nigeria. So much noise and controversies about it. But so the APC has come out to claim that the Muhammadu Buhari regime is so sincere and corruption free that America trusts it so much. Then others, on the other hand, saying if the government is so corruption free, why is the UK and France unwilling to repatriate funds that have been stolen to UK and France? And those matters are under contention in the courts right now, because there is still yet another over 300 million US dollars that is being under contention right now. the France and the UK are unwilling to release such monies to Nigeria, their claim is that such money will find their way back into the hands of the same people who stole the money in the first place. So there's also this version of the story where Falana says that the United States of America has no right to determine how Nigeria should spend such money, and that the money should be shared between the federal government, the state government, and the local government, and not just be expended by the federal government only and to be used for federal government projects. Okay, so what a deep story. Now I'm still going to be staying on this very issue. I'm going to bring you the latest concerning this very Abacha loot. So my people out there, do let me know your thoughts about this topic. Hit me in the comment section just below this video what you think, and if you're new to the channel, please click the subscribe button, subscribe to the channel. If you're new, also click the bell notification icon so that anytime I drop new videos you can be notified. All right, share the video, like the video. All right, it's still your boy Uvi Mark. Stay cool. Remember, it's COVID-19 era, so protect yourself. Okay, you know all the routines. Protect yourself. Until I see you again in the next one, peace out. Take care of yourself. God bless you.